name is Catherine Hale. I'm a range monitoring specialist for Simplot Land and Livestock out of Grandview, Idaho.
Yeah, so my name's Austin Lemons. I am there we go, trying to get the lighting. I am both a master's student and the manager of Dayton Valley Conservation District.
Is Kaylee Smith, and I graduated last year now in May from University of Idaho with a degree in rangeland management with minors in animal science, wildlife resources, and ecology. I'm originally from Boise, and the last couple of summers I've worked in Leadore, Idaho for the Forest Service as a range technician.
I was born and raised in Texas, in central Texas, and grew up on a small farm ranch. My dad was a carpenter handyman, but we ran a few cows on some family land there in the area. And then I did my undergrad in Sul Ross State University, and I got my degree in natural resource management with concentrations in sustainable ranch management as well as ag business. And while I was there, I did an internship in Cheyenne, Wyoming at a USDA ARS research station. So I was just a vegetation technician there working for the summer. And then once I got done with my undergrad, I went to Oklahoma State University to get my master's, again in natural resource ecology and management with more of a range ecology focus. And there I was studying the effects of prescribed fire and patch burn grazing on forage quality and cattle grazing distribution. So I was doing a lot of work with prescribed fire out in western Oklahoma, which was a lot of fun, as well as in the tall grass prairie on some different projects. And then while I was finishing up there, I went to Florida to do an internship down there on Deseret cattle and citrus, so a bigger cattle operation down there. Just as an intern, working with some replacement heifers and checking heifers, learn about how cattle are raised in the swamps of Florida, which was pretty interesting. They have water down there, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Which is kind of foreign concept for most people in Texas, especially in the western states as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then finishing up there, got the job up here in Idaho. So I've been up here for about a year and a half, going on 2 years in the spring.
I went to school for range at UNR, and I'm working on my master's in range and animal science at UNR as well.
Not specifically, but so growing up, my two older sisters did range and plant ID and 4-H. Like that was their thing. They were all in gung-ho on that since they were little. And so me being the baby of the family, I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. And it wasn't until I was probably about 16 in high school and I had some other friends. They were on the plant ID range evaluation team. Like, oh, we need somebody else to help fill out a team. It's like, okay, fine, I'll help out on there, even though my dad was the coach, so he was very involved in it as well. So I hopped on there for the last couple of years of high school and ended up really liking it and did pretty good at the competitions and enjoyed going to competitions and learning about the different plants as well as range health principles and soils and erosion, all the things if anybody's ever done 4-H or FFA range evaluation. It's pretty interesting, kind of provides you the base knowledge for a lot of what we know about today and what you learn about in college if you're going into that field.
Great.
So that's what made me decide to do that once I actually got into it a little bit more, even though I was dead set against it at first.
Non-traditional, as I think a lot of people can relate. I started as a mining engineering major and realized I hated rocks and I loved animals. So I was gonna do agriculture science, and a friend of mine, Blake Duncan, convinced me to do range. And I was like, oh, it's so much better, it's much more broad. And so, that's how I ended up in range.
I decided on that job because for 2 of my summers of undergrad, that's what I did. And I really, really enjoyed where I was, and I really enjoyed what we do, or what I did as a range technician. And I don't know, I felt like I needed just a little bit more experience before that specialist job. And then also it's, like I said, it's what I enjoy. I like monitoring. I like being out in the field. I wasn't ready to sit behind a desk all day, every day. So I figured a couple more years as a technician or thereabouts, and then getting into the more nitty gritty. And as I've kind of gotten promotions as a technician, I've requested more responsibilities, and more information about working with ranchers and how the permit system works with the Forest Service and grazing. And so I've kind of just, like I said, wanted to be in the field and eventually eventually go to that desk job, which with hopefully being in the field still.
There's definitely generational differences for sure, as many people have probably run into, but a lot of the mentality of, oh, this is the way we've done it, this is the way we've always done it, so we're going to keep doing it this way. And I know a lot of the old timers, that's what they know because that's what works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Whereas the up and comers are like, no, well, there could be other ways to do it. And there can be good pros and cons to both ways of thinking. Yes, if it's not broke, why should you try to rework it and possibly break it in the process? But at the same time, there could always be a different way to do things to make it better and more efficient. And I think range overall has gone through a lot of different evolutions as far as different principles. Maybe what we thought worked best 50 years ago isn't such a good idea, and we're kind of learning about new ways that maybe don't replace the old things that used to be done, but add to it, supplement it. So what used to be taught is being a little bit more replaced and outdated now. So there's lots of different things to just keep up with and know that even as a young professional now, the things that you learn now may be supplemented to, updated later on, and just be open-minded as you go on through your career. I know it's kind of hard to envision maybe starting out now, but 50 years down the road, it could look entirely different than what it does now.
Yeah, so if you look at like livestock producers and that part of the range world, things are going to a much more holistic approach as younger generations are starting to come in. We're going more from managing the range as a livestock tool to managing the range as a whole ecosystem. And there are lots of, we've all had professors that, were talking to us about this in school, but we're actually seeing it on the ground, and we're finally starting to see it come into policy as well, which has been, I think, a huge hurdle for the generation ahead of us. Kind of managing, more holistically and not just looking at, the range can be grazed from X day to X day, but, if the range is grazed a little differently every year, it's more healthy for the range.
I would say yes. A lot of people who have been in the workforce for a while, number one, they are experienced and they know what they're talking about. Number two, that can sometimes lead to maybe you wanting to try a new idea and them saying, no, like my idea is the way, and like this is the way we've done it. And so learning how to speak with colleagues that are of different generations. And I think I've been pretty lucky, and I've got a really good boss that listens to my ideas and is willing to try them. And so it's something to kind of expect going into it. And like I said, first of all, if they've been in that job for a long time, then they know what they're talking about, and their advice is key to getting things done. But sometimes being able to say, hey, like, I know this is the way we've done it, but can we at least try it this way once and see if it works, is pretty key to working with different generations.
There's a lot that you learn in the workforce that you don't learn in class, and just how to apply that mainly. You learn more of the principles in school and in classes, but as far as, okay, this is how we actually do it, and this is how to actually get it done on the ground and analyze the data afterwards, is a little bit of a learning curve, I think, for most anybody. I think my situation was a little bit unique. So going to a small school, we got a lot more hands-on, boots on the ground, actually getting that real world, more work experience type setting as opposed to just sitting in a classroom, which is really helpful. But both are important. You need the foundational knowledge to understand what you apply later on in the workforce. But I would recommend anybody that's maybe in school now, if you can get a job somewhere else, like in the range side, or maybe work for a grad student, or go out a day or two here and there to just volunteer on a different project and see what what goes on actually on the ground and kind of apply those principles you've been learning in class to make it make a little bit more sense in your mind and just see how that works and how other people apply those principles.
So your school experience is important, but you probably use 10% of what you learned in school every day. In all reality, everything that how you manage livestock and how you manage the range day to day is a lot more in depth and a lot different than you learn in school. School kind of gives you the basics, but I would say my experiences in jobs and internships has been 3 times as important as my school experience was.
I have, and I think no matter what degree you do and what career you're going into, the real world is different than your classes. The monitoring techniques that we use, we were taught in classes, but then there's also monitoring techniques that we weren't taught in classes, and that's not something that is a bad thing. We're taught in classes like the most used or like widely used monitoring methods, which is good. Like I said, some of those methods I do use. And then there are the methods that, like maybe this was like talked about in class, but we didn't actually do it. And so it's really helpful to be okay with learning more and knowing that you might have to keep learning after you're done with classes. And I like it. I like learning. So I don't mind, learning new things, but I definitely think you should go into it knowing that you're going to experience new things and learn new things and be okay with that.
Yeah, I guess kind of like I said earlier, to just take advantage of opportunities, even if you can't commit to a full-on internship or a whole semester or summer or a full job outside of your schooling. Try to connect with the grad students in your department. I know that's what I did quite a bit. It was a pretty small school anyways, so it was easy to do, but just see if they need any help. They're always looking for free labor, so if you can come out on a Saturday or help them some afternoon to just come grind plants or go out in the field and see what they do with prairie dogs or pronghorn or fire or any number of projects that are going on in the department that can be interesting. And it's also good to see, maybe you have your specific field of interest that you want to study right now, but you can divert that a little bit and see if there's something else that maybe you spark your interest while you're out and studying prairie dogs. Like, hey, I want to study prairie dogs for the rest of my life. That sounds awesome. Or something different. Or maybe you learn, hey, I hate prairie dogs. I never want to see a prairie dog again, which is also good to know. You find something that you absolutely cannot stand doing. And then you just have that experience of knowing what's done with the prairie dogs. Even if you never use that information again, you've had that experience and you can apply that somewhere else, maybe to a different project that you end up working on later in the future. Or just when talking to somebody, you can make that connection and have a little bit more background information on a diverse number of topics.
Yeah, so I think for, freshmen, sophomores in your younger years, go out and try, get jobs, get internships. The range world is so broad, all the way from, producer level to agencies to, there's a million different ways you can go with a range degree. And so try it all, figure out what works best for you. Me personally, I hate the office. I hate paperwork. I want to be outside. And that's something, it took me having more of a paperwork job to realize how much I liked being outside and being in the field. And for, kind of the same for, juniors and seniors and, freshly graduated students, try a couple different jobs. Don't just go straight to an agency and sit in an agency job for the rest of your career. Go try something else. Work for a ranch. Work for a nonprofit, just kind of broaden your horizon, figure out what you're passionate about and pursue that.